Good morning, everyone. Hey, Tom Davis back, Director of Recruiting with Student Athlete World, and have a great lady on today, Kim Stiles, University of Charleston head softball coach. Been working on getting this with her for a while so that she could bring her insight and philosophy into recruiting and the University of Charleston and their softball program. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Kim Stiles, head softball coach at the University of Charleston. Welcome, Kim, and just give everybody a little bit of a bio and background on you.
Sure. So I am entering my fifth season here as the head coach, probably about 4.5 years. I got here late in the fall the first year, but going into my fifth season here, hoping to kind of keep the momentum rolling from last year. We were off to a good start last year, finished the season in the top 25. So, we're hoping to kind of keep rolling with that. But prior to coming here, I was the head coach at Davis and Elkins for 6 years. Kind of turned things around there. We're able to get that to a 30-win program. So was there for 6 years and then just really looking to advance. But before I was at Davis and Elkins, I was an assistant coach in Texas at Midwestern State, really good softball school. And then I played softball at the University of Pittsburgh. So familiar with East Coast softball, familiar with Division I, Division II, but I really like Charleston. I think we're doing good things here, and I'm excited for this season coming up.
Awesome. Hey, you're saying, where did you grow up?
Maryland.
Where at in Maryland?
Frederick County.
Okay, I know it. I mean, I do a lot of stuff out there and have some recruits. I actually, back when I was playing ball in the Red Sox, just in Double-A, I actually had a house down in Pasadena, but I'm familiar with Maryland and everything. So how did you get the University of Pittsburgh? You know what? I never put the name and everything together. So I mean, I saw your name. I'm up here in Pittsburgh, and I never put it together until right now. So you taught me at least one thing today.
Yeah. So I played my freshman year at the University of Vermont. And then had the opportunity to come play at a bigger school, play in the Big East Conference, and actually played with my sister, who is a year younger than I am. We played together for Pitt. So it was just a great opportunity, and took advantage of it and loved it.
Okay. University of Charleston, a place that I hold dear, and you're the head coach there. Hey, tell us a little bit about the school, about the softball program, what the advantages are to a University of Charleston education, and also the advantages for playing softball for you at UC.
Sure. So, obviously Charleston is in the state capital of West Virginia, so the location here is awesome. It is a smaller school, so we do have that small private school feel. Class sizes are really small, and just a really kind of close-knit community on campus. But then we also have all of the trappings of the city and all the restaurants and all the shopping that the girls like. So I feel like just situated in a great location. For us specifically with softball, the medical field programs here are huge. So we have a decent amount of nursing majors on our team, radiology majors, those kids looking to get into the medical field. It's a really good place to be. We also have a lot of business majors just with the city. There's a big draw there. And then opportunities for the education majors. So those kids, there's tons of schools right in this area, so they can do all their shadowing. So from an academic perspective, we have a lot to offer with the city. And then just the community feel, the small campus the kids love. But from a softball perspective, I would say, I'm a very much a whole person coach. We focus a lot on, what are we doing off the field and on the field? What are we doing in the classroom? My team is going 4 semesters strong with the highest GPA in the athletic department. So we're rolling there. But we just really do a good job at, reinforcing good values and hard work. And rule number 1 on our team is be a good person. So we talk a lot about being a good person, being a good teammate, Because if you're a good person, you don't skip reps in the weight room. You're not going to have an attitude with your teammates if you're a good person. So we really focus on that kind of big picture stuff.
So, well, when I sit there and listen to you and you look to create a winning culture and a team and a whole team culture. Am I correct?
Absolutely. We want buy-in from the moment we start recruiting the kids. I want them to understand that this is a great place to be. We're going to win a lot, but you're also going to come out a better person in 4 years, and you're going to learn, how to be a productive adult, how to be a good person, and, just be a responsible citizen.
Okay, so I want to touch now before I get into the recruiting. Okay, you mentioned like you were at Davis and Elkins and changed them around. I know the Mountain East and the PSAC, and people. I tell people all the time. I said those two conferences and the teams that they have. I mean, they're probably two of the best conferences for Division II athletics that are in the nation all around. I mean, football wise, baseball, softball, volleyball, basketball, everything like that. So, you were at Davis and Elkins, and you took a program that was struggling into a 30-win program. UC, I mean, moving down there now, same type of stuff. Talk a little bit about what you do. I mean, where the program was and what you had to do and instill to sit there and get that program to be a 30-win program.
Yeah, I mean, I think the situation at when I first arrived at Davis and Elkins, they were coming off a year where they were 6-36. So the kids were just beaten down, kind of demoralized. There wasn't a great work ethic. It just was a culture that needed a whole revamp. It was my first head coaching job as well. So I kind of went in with this approach that, like, if we lose, it's not going to be because I didn't work hard enough. So, teams model their head coach, and that was my approach. I'm going to work 110% all the time. And the kids saw that, and they really bought into that. And the work ethic was insane. They worked so hard, but also just like this atmosphere of a really positive attitude, really much kind of lifting each other up, wanting to win for each other. And we just worked hard at kind of creating a culture where you were trying to make the kid next to you better. It wasn't about you. It was about what could you do for the girl standing next to you. And it worked. It wasn't easy by any stretch of the imagination, but it worked, and it took 4 years, and we got that program where it needed to be. UC was a little bit of a different situation because this has always been a relatively good, solid softball program. I think for me, it's just been more about kind of putting my touches on the program. I'm a little bit different than some other head coaches in that I do focus a little bit more on the off the field stuff with the kids. I want that good relationship. I want them to know that I care about them, and that if they need something, I'm always here, and that's not affected by how they play on the field. So we go out of our way to make sure that we're doing a good job taking care of them, from the best kid on the roster to the last kid off the bench. They're all treated the same way. They all have the same experience, and we really just focus on that creating that really good environment for the program.
I think that the points that you're making there, I mean, because I deal with everybody, Division I and all sports, Division II, Division III, NAIA, JUCO, and everything. And I mean, I think that you hit the nail right on the head. And, when I talk to my clients and players, and like a place like UC, the coaches in the Division II, Division III, and everything are going to be more of that on the field, off the field type of person and everything. You get into big time. I mean, you were at Pitt now, and softball wise, I really don't know, all the resources and they do, but I look at them football wise, basketball wise, and everything. So I mean, head coach, guess what? You have 100 people out there to take care of every need of one of your players and everything like that. So, I mean, I really like to sit there and sell, and I work with tons of Division 2, 3 talent and everything like that. And I just love working with the coaches and seeing their approach and hearing them say that. So want to get into a little bit recruiting style now and everything. First off, how many young ladies do you roster?
30, typically 30. Yeah. We'll typically carry 4 or 5 pitchers and then 25 position players.
Okay. Doing that, I mean, so then with 30 players, I mean, for young ladies that are playing high school and travel ball and have 12 and 13 on, that's number one. You better learn to come in and be part of a team and come in and be ready to compete. Am I correct?
It is a competitive environment. At any given time, we've got 2 or 3 deep in every position, so they're going to fight for their spot. We talk a lot about understanding your role, and sometimes your role is different from weekend to weekend or season to season, but just finding value in the role that everybody has in the program. And that's something that we talk about all the time. So they can learn to understand that.
Okay. Recruiting wise, Coach, I think that you have a good base with some solid players down around Southern West Virginia and everything like that. Talk a little bit, because I know that you've seen like the Pitt stuff and then up at Davis and Elkins. Talk a little bit about your strategy, maybe what your base is, how far out you'll go, and just some skill sets and some characteristics that you look for and bringing in a player for the school and for the softball program.
Yeah, so we really kind of recruit all the Mid-Atlantic and on into the Midwest and do pretty well. We got lots of Indiana, lots of Michigan kids, and then tons of Ohio kids. We do well in Ohio. Pennsylvania is a little trickier because you have so many PSAC schools in Pennsylvania, but we do get the Pennsylvania kids. Maryland, Virginia. We have a kid from Kentucky coming next year. So probably in like this 8-state radius. We've done well in Florida. We have a really good sophomore pitcher from Florida right now. I really don't have any limitations. I'm pretty much everywhere. All summer long, I'll be somewhere every weekend. So I hit Tennessee, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois. We'll do all of them. But so I'm not real picky on that front. I am the type of coach who, even after a kid has committed, I like to continue to see them play. So I'm somebody who will, even after they sign their NLI, I'll see them 3 or 4 times this summer because I like to foster that relationship and I want them to be comfortable playing in front of me. So when they get here in September, they're not terrified when I put them out there. But that's something that we focus on. But in terms of characteristics for players that I look for, I think attitude is huge for me. Athleticism, obviously, you got to have a little bit of athletic ability, a lot of athletic ability, but position wise, I'm not always so picky. Outside of the pitchers and the catchers, I feel like if you're a solid athlete, if you're a good shortstop, I can teach you to play second base. If you're a great center fielder, you can play right field. So I'm not super picky, position specific. I look for hitters. You hit well, I'm going to figure out where to put you. I've put a catcher in right field before and made it work. So, I think offense is huge and we are definitely an offensive team, but outside of pitchers and catchers, it's really just about being athletic, being a good hitter, being a good teammate. I will tell you that I do watch everything when I go to see kids play. So I watch them warm up. I will watch how they interact with their parents. I went to see a really good pitcher out of Chicago a couple years ago, and in between games, her dad brought her a Gatorade, and it wasn't the color she wanted. And she started yelling at him at the complex. And I was like, okay, well, I drove 11 hours for nothing because I crossed her right off my list. But just very much whole picture. Like I want good kids, I want good families, and then the softball has to work as well.
Sure. I mean, you cover so many points that I talk over with my clients about, attitude. And I always used to say when I was coaching college and I preached all my players. I was actually down in Fort Myers 3 weeks ago with um, our Rawlings Tigers 15U national team, and it was so funny about these kids learning the intricacies of the game. I mean, I won't get into a specific thing right now, but we did have a player that was, he kind of put on a show and wanted the light to all be on him and everything. And I think that he learned. I love the kid and his skill set, but I'm like, you gotta learn right now. It's not gonna work. And with things that you say, I mean, when I was coaching and out recruiting, coach, I'd be the first person there. I love to see teams arrive, and when the player I'm looking at is walking, with the phone in hand, and the parents are lugging everything. I'm like, this isn't going to work right now. I mean, there's one red flag, and you usually could sit there and look at some other stuff. But I don't think a lot of times kids realize how much value that college coaches put in that, because number one, yeah, your job is to be there and win and to mold them and make them good people to go out into the world when they're done. And the last thing in the world you want to deal with is, attitudes and this, that, and the other. So your points are so well taken. So, when you're recruiting and all, how young will you start looking? Like, how many classes ahead will you start, hey, here's a young lady that I want on my radar to follow, see how she's developing and progressing. How far do you go down the line, Coach?
So we are building our list of 2023s right now to see this summer. Our 2022 class, we're kind of in the middle of. This year's a little bit different than in years past, because at this point in a normal year, I would have my scholarship kids for 2022 done already. But what's a little bit different this year, because we have some waiting on Division I offers, that kids, because that's really where we're competing with a lot of the Toledo, NKU. We'll get kids that are offered smaller scholarships or walk-on spots at some of the bigger D1s that we're waiting on, but we're in kind of a holding pattern this year because of the D1 recruiting restrictions with COVID. So this year is a little bit later than normal, which stresses me out because I'm very much a type A planner and I like to be done. But, normally we're finishing up the juniors, so the 22s, and then just starting to build our database of 23s that we're going to see this summer. So we've started to sort of weed through the 2023s. And then, you never know, you might lose a kid on your team late in the spring or things like that. And then you fill gaps with transfers or late kids. But for the most part, we tend to work about a year and a half out on the commitments.
Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because a lot of people don't seem to understand that too, that the niche. When I'm like, they're like, wow, we haven't gotten this yet. I said, Division twos, a very good Division twos, and that they're recruiting, looking at the same type of players as small Division ones and everything, and they're waiting to see, because they have offers and everything, and it's who slips through the cracks and everything like that. And I think that for the most part, maybe the kids will know it, but the parents don't get that point a lot, that hey, if you're competitive Division II thing, I mean, what I mean, I can just say for baseball, because I tell them, they're like, well, he's a 90 plus guy, he's a big time D1. I said, I'm going to tell you what, you can go anywhere. You can step right out on Robbie Britt's field. I've been there. I was watching kids work out. I have kids there that are clients, and hey, they throw 90 plus. Major league teams are looking at them. They have people in the field. I'll mention his name, Colby Johnson, he's a great kid of mine, and Andy Wright will be happy that I mentioned him, because he gets on me all the time about it. But the kid's phenomenal, and working with him to be a pro now. But I just don't think that parents recognize enough that there is such a close thing in talent. And I tell people, for I have Division I baseball players, and there's Division I softball players that play Division III because of great academics, and they get the academic money there and everything, and there's not professional softball chances like major league, and they want to go for the academic thing while still playing. And there's just so many things that go into it. And now with the COVID stuff and the rules changes and this, that, and the other, I mean, it's tough. Do you look at the transfer portal at all, Coach?
I do look at the transfer portal every once in a while. Now, I like to get kids here for 4 years and keep them here for 4 years. It's my hope that we don't ever have kids transfer out. So we try to, if we need to, we will, to fill gaps, but we haven't had to do it a ton. But I was going to bounce back and say that one of my biggest pet peeves is when somebody, a travel ball coach or someone, tells me that kid's D1 talent. One of my biggest pet peeves, because we have kids on our roster now. I'm counting in my head, but we've got at least 6 that chose Charleston over D1 opportunities. So, there are kids that are choosing a school for the right reasons,
Sure.
And had D1 opportunities. Now, maybe financial situation better here than there and things like that, but still making that choice. And we also beat Division I programs. We'll play Division I programs in the fall season and win. So I know that, if I put my team up against some D1 schools, we're going to be right there. So that's a frustrating thing for me. That's always been a pet peeve, because I look at kids on my team now and I'm like, you could have played at Pitt when I played at Pitt.
Sure.
And so I'm always like, don't tell me they're D1 talent. If they're athletic, tell me they're athletic. If they're fast, tell me they're fast. Because I promise you my team is better than some of the D1 schools you're going to see.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'd say see it all the time. Division I's. Let's put it this way. I'm going to age myself. Back in the early '80s, so people, you can do the math, but we went up and played West Virginia when Coach Ramsburg was there. And I'm going to tell you what, never again did we get invited, because my freshman year, I beat them up there. And it was like, number one is you can't be West Virginia and losing to an NAIA school, which we were at the time, in the league and everything. So, yeah, it happens all the time. And I tell my people, I'm like, and you know what I do? I like to put it this way, Coach. 6% of all the athletes playing sports in high school get the privilege and honor to move on and everything. So whether you're playing Division III, Division II, Division I, as well as I do, there's Division III teams out there that are unbelievable and can sit there and go and play with anybody and make it a game and everything. And I just think that it's so important, because I get it with people, and they're like, well, you got to promise me you can get him. I said, I don't guarantee anything. I said, if they're good enough, I can get them in front of those people that they need to see. But I said, yeah, you know what? I said, coaches are going to ask me. They'll ask me what I think, and they're gonna look at what they need and everything and decide. And I said, it's all going to be taken care of like that. But when you sit there and you back yourself into that corner, you really sit there and take such a big part out of the recruiting process that's there and open for you. Did I lose you?
Nope, I'm still here.
Okay. So I got kind of windy there. So let's talk a little bit. Let's talk a little bit of style. I mean, what you like to do. Now, do you have a philosophy to where, hey, this is my way of playing and everything like that? I'm gonna bring in girls that I think that can mold into that, or you bring in the athletes, look at what you have, change your style a little bit every time and everything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I will say that your style kind of evolves year to year depending on what you got. But I try to stay pretty balanced in our lineup. We'll have a little bit of speed at the top, and then I'm very much an offensive coach. I want to score 6, 7, 8 runs a game. So there are times where I will sacrifice defense for offense. Typically not with the catchers or your shortstop usually, but like I said before, I put a catcher out in right field and keep the ball in front of you. Hit me 20 home runs this season and drive in 60, 70 runs, and you just keep the ball in front of you in right field. So, I think offense is huge, especially in Division II, where you might not have the most polished defensive players, but if you can hit well and you can pitch, you're going to be just fine. So, I would say definitely offensive centered coach. And then, we put money into pitching. You have to.
Everybody. I tell everybody, I said, if you're a pitcher, that's where the money is. So, question, you've been around the game and everything. And, I think for me, I see it evolving more into a hitting game than a small ball game that it used to be. Just give me your thoughts on that. I mean, I see these girls, man, they hit the ball, they square it up, they hit it hard, and I think it's gotten away. There'll always be small ball involved with softball and baseball, and I've seen some of the best teams do it that are so fundamental at it that it drives you crazy. But give me your thoughts about how the game has evolved in your eyes.
So, well, I think number one, the game is evolving because the bat technology is unreal right now. So, even if you hit a ball, sometimes it's square. So, I feel like that has affected a little bit of the push away from the small ball game. I'm not a huge small ball coach. I would rather the kids stand there and swing. Like, I want to see you take a hack. But there's time and a place. So we will use it when we need to. Probably one of our most consistent hitters of the last 4 years. She's a kid who slaps well, but also power slaps well. So I do think there's a time and a place. I think two small ball type kids in the lineup is plenty. But I've had years where I've had one or none as a head coach. So for me, it's really about offensive production. I think if you hit that, 5 runs a game benchmark, that's your average for the season, you're going to win more than you lose. So, that's something that I always look at with a team. Can we score 5 runs a game? Because even if you pitch terribly, you're going to win if you score 5 runs a game.
Sure. You like to run?
Hit or miss. I feel like I'm not as much of a risk taker on the stolen bases. I think some of the kids I have right now would tell you they want to steal more. But I also feel like when you've got really solid hitters, 3, 4, 5, 6,
let them hit.
Why take the chance? Because, she puts it into the gap, you're going to score from first base. I don't need to take the chance of putting you on second. So time and a place again, but, I very much offensive hitting coach. I let the running a little bit to the side. I'll take power and consistency at the plate over speed.
Okay. Coach, you were talking about the off-field stuff. Tell us about, and COVID year, not being able to do it, but community service. And so many colleges are into it now and about giving back and teaching kids to give back. Hey, don't forget where you came from. Be kind, always look to be good humans off the field and everything like that. Tell us a couple of things that you guys do. I know that the baseball program, I'm familiar with Robbie and had Andrew and everybody before, but talk about some of the things that you guys do as a softball team, community service wise.
Yeah, so in a normal year, we would do some things with the American Red Cross. We helped at their big heart walk in the falls. We also like to do a pediatric cancer game in the spring, raise money and send that. So that's been a big one for us. We did the food pantry 2 years ago where they went and helped prep meals to distribute to homeless at one of the shelters downtown. So the kids were in the kitchen, like cutting and meal prepping and things like that. So very much just kind of want them to appreciate the opportunity they have. One of the big things we do every year, so we always have a big Christmas team dinner. And before they're allowed to open their gifts, I always make them take their phones out and text their parents and their grandparents and tell them thank you and that they love them. Because I think they don't tell them enough how appreciative they are of everything they did to get them there. And I'm always like, you can get your gifts and we're going to have our Christmas party, but you do this first. You say thank you. And it's just kind of one of my things. And this year we had the Christmas party and one of the seniors was like, well, you don't even have to tell us. We'll give the instructions to the freshmen. They know that it's coming. So,
Sure.
Just little things like that. I think it makes a big difference.
It does. It does. And you're talking about calling your parents. One of my buddies who coaches NAIA baseball out in the Midwest, I saw his thing on Twitter and I was doing the interview with him and I've said, I think one of the best things that I've seen every Wednesday, they take 10 minutes out of their practice and their players, they show them, they're walking all over the field and it's call your parent so that they talk to them and that. And I'm like, man, that is awesome. You know what? I've never thought of that. I mean, back when playing, the coaches were always like, hey, you talk to mom and dad? And more so, I'm aging myself again, it was letters, man. I used to write letters and letters used to come. But I mean, now with the thing, I just think that, talking to your parents and letting them know that things are good and you're grateful for their support and getting you there and the other stuff, community service. I mean, I just think nowadays it's just such an important part. And you're going to have kids that it really opens up their eyes and it's like, wow, I have no idea that things are like this and everything. So I love everything that you've been talking about. I've got a lot of really good insight and stuff and how you do stuff. And I'm sure that people that watch and follow are really gonna like the messages that you've had today. I'm going to ask for one more message with everything going on COVID-wise. And give me a message that you talk to your staff and your players about. What's your message for dealing with this and looking to the future?
I think for me it would just be don't take anything for granted. You're not guaranteed tomorrow. You're not guaranteed another game. You're not guaranteed another season. And I think we all learned that the hard way last year. And I can tell you from a personal perspective, having to tell 30 kids who were 16-2 and in the top 25 that they were done playing for the spring, it was terrible. And there were tears and they were heartbroken. And I think that the one thing that we all take away from this is that we aren't guaranteed anything. Life is short. Just take things as they come and appreciate what you have and the people around you.
Yep. Yeah. I tell people, hey, that you're always one day away from something happening, injury wise, situations and, all great messages that you've put out. And I think that my players and everything, clients, and all that, parents are really going to get a strong, clear message from you about some things recruiting wise, characteristics, style wise and everything. And it was a pleasure, and anything that I can ever do for you, Coach, you let me know. And
I appreciate it.
I actually will be down. I come down there a lot. And when I come down, I stay in Kanawha City. So with my one buddy, so I'm down there seeing prospects or kids down in Charleston that are playing all the time. So would love to come in and sit there and meet. How many coaches you have on staff?
So we have a graduate assistant and myself. And then this year, we're fortunate that we have one of our girls who was a senior last year, our pitcher, she came back this year to help. She wanted to get another year with her teammates, but her shoulder was just done. She had pitched 2 years at a junior college and then come here, and she was like, I just don't know that I can do it. But wanted to be around the program for her last year and get to help. So we've had her this year as well, which has been awesome. So we're working with 3 people, me and a GA and a student assistant.
I'm going to have to sit there and talk to them because your buddies over there in baseball, I call them the Major League Division II with they got 45 coaches running around, and I'm exaggerating and all that. But you know what? I mean, everything that I've heard and I see, I know that you're doing it the right way, and I enjoyed talking to you. If you just want to hold on, I'm going to end this right here. I just want to talk to you for a sec after we're done. Thank you very much, Coach.
You're welcome.